Hey, what up? It's Brad with Home Love Construction, and in this video, I want to talk to you about raising the ceiling. I know you thought I was going to say raising the roof, but raising the roof is involved if you're raising a ceiling in most cases. So I'm going to tell you how you can do it and what it typically costs and whether I recommend it, because at the end of the day, it's like you might be thinking, oh, I'm thinking about doing this, but I'm not sure. Do you recommend it? I'll give you the full briefing on what that looks like and whether or not it's a good idea. But before I do, if you're thinking about doing this, you definitely need to go to homelove.construction/design so that we can help you design this. If you're gonna change the ceiling in your house, you're gonna change a lot more than just that. So you need a professional walking you through what's actually going to be involved in this and all the different considerations you have to have and all the different things you have to account for in that planning process. So our design team can help you do that. Go to homelove.construction/design and they will get you set up for success on changing the ceiling of your home. And it doesn't matter where you live, we can help people all over the United States. So that said, what's involved in making a ceiling higher? Well, there's really two ways that you can do it. Number one, if you have an older home that's built out of rafters, which means it's individual pieces of wood, not the trusses with like the webbing and stuff that you see going on the semis down the road. If it's not that and it's big old pieces of wood, it's actually very easy to raise the ceiling of your home. What you have to do is you have to add some structural members. And members are just pieces of wood. When I say member, just think, oh, a member is just a piece of wood, that's it. Or it could be a piece of steel in some cases. In this video, I'm talking about wood. So you just need to add some bracing higher up in the roof, and it needs to be very strong. So you're gonna need an engineer to tell you where to place it and how big to make the boards and how to nail them in and all that kind of nonsense. But the essential idea is you're gonna take away the ceiling, you're gonna rip down the ceiling. There's gonna be boards there right at the ceiling level. You're gonna cut those out. You're gonna brace it first, obviously, so the roof doesn't fall down. And then you're gonna make that horizontal bracing higher. So now you're gonna have a ceiling that goes up and is flat higher. So you can do that pretty far up. You can typically get anywhere from 1.5 to 2.5 feet. In some cases, if you've got a really wide house and it goes up pretty far. So you can steal some space that way, and that makes, the whole, if you're doing it in the main living area, you can do it there to make it, bigger and more grand, and maybe you hang a chandelier or some beams or something. There's a lot you can do with that once it's done. So that's one way that you can do it. If you have trusses are interesting. Trusses are pre-engineered. So the reason that the construction industry moved to doing trusses is that instead of taking these big pieces of 2x12, which means it's 2 inches thick and 12 inches wide, you can take these little 2x4s, which are much cheaper and much easier to get your hands on in large quantities. And you can take these 2x4s and arrange them so that they'll hold up a roof with more strength than the 2x12, with less wood. So it makes them way cheaper. They're way faster to install because you just set them in place, and they can be built in a factory versus on site. Now, the issue that you run into with trusses in this situation is that if you want to cut a truss, it can be very, let's just say, complicated to restore the strength of that truss in a different way. And so it's not as complicated, it's slower, which means it costs more. In anything in construction, when you have to do it the slow way equals the expensive way, because labor is the most expensive thing in construction. No matter what anyone tells you, other than cabinets and countertops, labor is the most expensive thing when it comes to building a house or building an addition. 100% bar none. I can show you the numbers if you want to see them, because our labor literally makes up 2/3 of the cost of our construction projects, even accounting for the cabinets and stuff like that. On rough trades, it's 90% for framing and concrete and stuff like that. So that said, when you're looking to modify trusses, you can do it. And what you can do is you can typically do kind of a box raised up in your ceiling. So you can't typically do a vault. For that, you'd have to pull the trusses off and then, put on new trusses that have the vault built into them. But you can create a little box up, if your ceiling's here, you can go up from that and create a higher ceiling in the middle. Some people call that a tray ceiling because it's like a raised tray in there, I guess, like an upside down tray or something. So that's one option. Now, I left the craziest option for last because remember, if you've got a conventional framed roof with rafters, you can raise it by adding the cross bracing higher up. If you've got trusses, you can modify them and you can create a high tray ceiling. Usually that tray can be 1 to 1.5 feet typically with some ease, and it's not that big a deal. Now the third thing is you can pick up and lift the entire roof higher from the home. This can be done. I've seen it done. We have almost done it a couple times until the person was just like, I just can't make sense of this. It's too much money. Let me just remodel the whole home instead of just doing the roof. But I have actually been on multiple job sites where a roof has been lifted. I actually in person saw it being done for a 6,000 square foot restaurant in Palm Harbor, where they just wanted the roof from 8 feet to, I think they went to like 11.5. And so they literally just picked the whole thing up and built the walls up and then set it back down on the walls. And it only shifted about 1/4 of an inch while they did that, which is pretty crazy on a 6,000 square foot roof. So for that, the whole roof has to get braced together, and then the whole thing has to get cut away from the walls and then picked up all at once as one continuous unit. This is expensive. This is ridiculously expensive, I would even dare say. So the typical cost per square foot of lifting a roof, building the walls up, and then restoring it to its original look is around $200 a square foot. That's just taking care of the roof. It doesn't include your floors that are going to get destroyed. It doesn't include all the walls that are going to get destroyed. It doesn't include the kitchen that's going to get destroyed or the bathrooms, because realize that the ceiling goes over everything. So if you're looking to do this, you can absolutely do it. It's just a matter of, is it a good use of your money? If you have a small home on the water that you want to have 10-foot ceilings and you don't want to tear down the house because it's historical or whatever, hell yeah, do it. It's just going to cost you $200 a square foot. So on a 2,000 square foot home, it's $400K to do the roof. Now, you don't have to replace the roof, which is nice, but on most people they do, because the roof can get a little shifty. If you have tiles or metal, just plan on replacing it. If you have shingles on the roof, it can be done with shingles. Shingles will be fine. So that said, those are your options for making your ceilings higher. Now, what I would recommend is the best way to make your ceilings higher is to simply rip off what area of roof you want to be higher and rebuild it higher. That is the cleanest way to do it. And it tends to be the easiest as well for the contractor, what's easier for the contractor is what's cheaper for you, frankly. Because if it's tougher for the contractor, you're going to get charged for the amount of man hours to go into planning and executing it, which is how it should be. So that said, if you need help designing something like this, if after this video you're still thinking about doing it, mad respect, because this is something that it's tough. It's not something that I would say do it lightly. Like, yeah, I just want to raise my ceilings. If you have the money to do it, hell yeah, do it. And I want to help you. Now that said, if you need help designing it, which you definitely do, you don't want to you can't wing this. You have to have it totally planned out. Go to homelove.construction/design and we can help you with, we've designed this a couple times before, so we have the correct ideas on what has to be done. Like there's little things that you might miss, like in certain areas building the wall under the new height of the roof. So I've seen that miss before. It's very frustrating for the client when it's like, hey, this wasn't in your plans, but we have to do it, so it's going to cost an extra $10K. If you just let the contractor, which is us, design it from the start, which is why we actually brought design in-house, we can avoid all of that entirely. So you can go to homelove.construction/design and we can help you get started today. That includes the interior design part of it, the architectural part of it, and the GC reviewing it to make sure that the stuff makes sense. So homelove.construction/design is your place for that. Thank you for watching. I do appreciate your attention. And if you got some value out of this video, hit the subscribe button below, because that helps me to reach more people, do more projects, learn more things, and then bring it back to you as lessons learned. Thank you. See you in the next vid. Peace.